And you can put two and two together just by reading the accounts in the Gospels. Jesus is making the claim by his actions. Yes, I am the God, not just any God, but the God of the Old Testament, the God of the Jewish people, come to fulfill everything the Old Testament has said. And then once he heals this blind guy, he looks up and he says, I see people, but they look like trees. And again, that's weird. We're not sure if this guy's been blind since birth or if he slowly became blind. The text doesn't say. So maybe he knew what a tree looked like before he was blind. Maybe if he was been born blind, he just compares people to big round things because maybe he walked into a tree once. And he kind of has this idea of what a tree is and what a person is. And as I was reading, and hopefully as you're reading, one thing I really harp on is you try to make connections with the Bible, trying to make connections between one story to another story, seeing how the Bible is unified. I was talking with someone recently, and this is going to come up later on in Mark in a year, so you guys are going to forget. Maybe not. But in Mark's gospel, when Jesus is being arrested in a garden, it says that someone was watching this whole thing happen, and as the soldiers were trying to arrest him, they took away his clothing and he became naked and ran away in a garden. Who else was naked and ran away in a garden? Adam. That's on purpose. That is a clear connection. When we're reading the scriptures, we should always be thinking stuff. If there's a garden somewhere, think Genesis 1 through 3. You're thinking giants, you're thinking Goliath and Nephilim. So when I read this, I'm like, trees. Is this Garden of Eden stuff? Is this tree of knowledge of good and evil in the tree of life? And that's a good instinct to have. But then when I was checking with commentaries and source materials, no. This has nothing to do with the Garden of Eden and the tree of knowledge. But it's a good instinct to have, which when we are reading, sometimes we hyperlink too much. Sometimes we think, oh yeah, Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark was made out of wood, which saved them. The cross is made out of wood. That saves us. Yes, but you might be trying too hard there. But it's a good instinct to have. And that's why they're so good to have Bible commentaries and resources online so that when we get an idea, we can fact check it with other believers who are smarter than us to see if they made the connection as well. That's just good Bible students, being good Bible readers. But this guy, his eyes are blurry. He just couldn't really see. And it's funny, when I was prepping this, I realized I needed to make my own eye doctor appointment because I'm reading right now on the big tablet and I'm like, whoosh. But this guy's eyes, he was probably just blurry. He's not all the way there yet. And then Jesus does it again. He fully heals this blind man. And the first thing he says, don't go back into the village. Because he knew that everyone in the village was going to surround him. And this guy was going to tell people, hey, Jesus did this. And then Jesus won't be able to do his ministry because he'd be too popular. Again, this whole idea, there's a secret about Jesus. And he doesn't want his ministry to get too popular because then he can't do Jesus stuff. He can't do the things he needs to get done before the cross and resurrection. But it is awkward that Jesus had to do this twice. Did Jesus mess up the first time? Did this not work? Is Jesus sweating right now? Oh boy, I didn't do it right. I'm going to have to try again. I didn't use all my powers. People have thought that looking at this miracle. And that's not what Jesus is doing. This is one healing in multiple phases. And I think this, from a commentary on the New Testament background, says it best. Many therefore believe that Jesus provided here an acted parable. Unlike Jesus' opponents, the disciples had begun to see but remain blind until he touches them again at his resurrection. The Old Testament prophets sometimes acted out parables to get people's attention and communicate their point. And then you see a bunch of examples right there. The best example was in Ezekiel. Ezekiel doesn't eat for a long time, and then he only eats food that's cooked over a bunch of poop to make a metaphorical point of how gross Israel is. Yeah, it's gross and it's weird, but Ezekiel was acting out something